Hello, this is Melanie Guralnik, and for the next hour I'll be reading from the July 7th issue of the Toronto Sun on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The first story is Thousands Line Montreal Streets to Honor Slain Police Officer by Abby McLaughlin. The sound of bagpipes drifted through downtown Montreal Tuesday morning as thousands of uniformed first responders moved slowly toward the Bell Centre. Behind a wreath of white flowers, the family of Constable Mohammed Lamine Benredouane led a procession through the city's core, while crowds lined the streets several rows deep under bright blue skies. Officers stood at attention as the march passed, some raising salutes, others wiping away tears. The procession was held in honor of Benredouane, the 34-year-old SPVM constable who was killed June 22nd while responding to reports of an armed man near Trans Island and de Courtrai avenues in Côte de Nuage. Two others died during the shootout, civilian Michael Mizrahi and suspected shooter Seth Scott Hatfield. A second officer was injured. Benredouane's shooting marked the first line-of-duty death of a Montreal police officer since Constable Benoit L. Ecuyer was fatally shot in 2002. SPVM officials said about 5,000 police officers, firefighters, and paramedics registered to take part in Tuesday's memorial events. At the front of the procession, an officer carried Benredouane's police cap atop a ceremonial cushion, while family members and loved ones followed closely behind. The march began at Montreal Police Headquarters at 10 a.m. But more than an hour later, first responders were still making their way toward the Bell Centre. Rows of officers stretched block after block through downtown streets, creating a near-continuous stream of uniforms moving toward the arena. Police service officials from across Quebec and elsewhere in Canada joined SPVM officers for the procession, marching alongside firefighters and paramedics in a show of solidarity. Along the route, spectators gathered behind barriers and on sidewalks, many holding phones aloft to capture the moment. Others stood quietly, watching as the procession passed beneath giant Quebec and Canadian flags suspended between two Montreal Fire Department ladder trucks. I think Montreal is crying, and Montreal was present, Montreal Mayor Soria Martinez Ferrada said before the ceremony. It was a moment of silence, dignity, and solidarity. Premier Christine Frechette described Benredouane as a hero whose actions helped prevent an even greater tragedy. Quote, "Because of his courage, he saved many lives," Frechette said. "We would have probably faced an even greater tragedy had he not shown the courage he showed." Inside the Bell Centre before the ceremony began, officers from Station 26, where Benredouane served, filled sections nearest the ceremonial area. Colleagues exchanged embraces and quiet words as mourners continued to stream into the arena. The crowd rose as a bagpiper entered carrying the ceremonial flag. Officers raised their hands in salute and held them there in silence as the flag was presented. Moments later, Benredouane's police cap was carried into the arena and placed at the front of the ceremonial space. Chief Inspector David Shane described the cap as the ceremony's most important symbol, a reminder of both the officer being honored and the duty he carried throughout his career. Across the arena, officers clasped colleagues' shoulders and stood arm in arm as the ceremony began. Then the room went silent. A choir began singing John Lennon's Imagine, their voices echoing through the arena as thousands of mourners stood listening. Some stared toward the stage. Others lowered their heads. Around them, family members, fellow officers, and first responders gathered to remember a man whose death has left a profound mark on Montreal's policing community. There is a picture of the walking funeral procession, and there is a woman right in the middle and she's wearing all black and is holding a blue rose. And she's very pregnant. She's got brownish blonde hair, and she has a very serious expression. There's another woman to her left, and then surrounding all of them are policemen in their uniforms. Photo courtesy of Alan McInnes via the Montreal Gazette. There is another picture of the procession walking down the street, and oh my goodness, it's very, very impactful because there are so many police officers that are walking down the street that literally you can't even see where they end. And it looks like there are about 12 or 15 officers across each row, and then there's, it just goes all the way back down this long street in downtown. And there you also see at this intersection the police, I'm so sorry, like the fire trucks up with the flags. It's just very powerful. And then on the sides you see the people watching. Photo courtesy of Alan McInnes via the Montreal Gazette. That story was Thousands Line Montreal Streets to Honor Slain Police Officer by Abby McLaughlin. The next story is Big Brother Steps Up Security After Julie Chen's On-Air Abduction by Danette Wilford. Big Brother is doing whatever it has to do to keep host Julie Chen Moonves safe, even if it means beefing up security. Ahead of its season 28 premiere on Thursday, Chen Moonves spoke out about the incident from 1 year ago, in which she was snatched from the Los Angeles soundstage by what Entertainment Weekly dubbed, quote, an evil entity known simply as the Mastermind. Aside from a single high heel left behind, the house guests had to try to find Chen Moonves, which she eventually was during a competition, of course, by Zach Cornell. The host was returned safely, and the Mastermind's supposed lair was blown to bits. But questions remain, including how did the kidnapper access the show's studio and set? Did they have an accomplice? And given that they got away, could another attempt be made? How is Julie feeling now? That's a trigger for me, Chen Moonves told the publication after being asked how she was doing 1 year later. So I'm just going to breathe it out right now. She added, I believe that God protects me from bad memories, and I totally forgot about it until you brought it up. But I'm going to breathe through this one. The host went through a few calming exercises before asserting that she's not worried about another attack on her on the show. I'm not concerned, she said. Look, we learned from our mistakes. I've been assured that security's been stepped up. The Chenbot also confirmed she hasn't heard boo from the Mastermind, though wondered aloud if he was still trying to fix his lair. I feel pretty good. I'm good, she assured fans. Don't mess with her bodyguards. She went on to confidently confirm that additional security measures have been put in place, including undercover protection. Here's the thing. They don't have to wear a jacket that says security to be my security, Chen Moonves pointed out. I mean, is that the person who does my hair and makeup? Or is that security? You don't want to find out. This 28th season marks a milestone for Big Brother, as it becomes the first primetime series to reach 1,000 original episodes. This week's 90-minute premiere features a time trip-themed house where decades of old collide, and where time is fractured, unpredictable, and constantly in motion, CBS touted. The second part of the Big Brother premiere will continue with another 90-minute episode on July 12th. All the Wednesday episodes will also be 90 minutes, while Thursdays and Sundays will be an hour-long post-premiere. There is a picture from season 27, the episode called House Guests Move-In Date, and this is when that host Julie Chen Moonves was abducted, and so this is a really spooky picture. So it's showing part of the house, and in the background There's like this lighted wall and a shiny floor that's like a black tile, and there's just a lone high-heeled shoe laying on the ground. Photo courtesy of Sonia Fleming via CBS. There is a picture of Julie Chen. She's standing in front of her makeup mirror and she's wearing this really cute off-the-shoulder yellow top. She's got long brown hair and her hands are on her hips and she's got a big smile. And apparently she likes clocks. There's a whole bunch of them on the counter. Photo by Matthew Taplinger via CBS. That story was Big Brother Steps Up Security After Julie Chen's On-Air Abduction by Danette Wilford. The next story is Inmate Who Leaked Film Sex Romps with Teen Prison Guard Has Sentence Upped by Danette Wilford. An inmate who filmed himself having sex with a new prison officer and leaked the footage on Snapchat will be in jail even longer. Declan Winkless, 31, will now serve an extra 5 years behind bars following a successful Court of Appeal challenge, the Mirror reported. Winkless was originally handed 3 years and 4 months, on top of his original 11-year sentence for aggravated burglary, which is currently being served, in January after admitting to prison smuggling and misconduct. But the sentence was deemed too lenient, hence the challenge brought on behalf of the Solicitor General. How did they become involved? Former prison guard Alicia Novus's 3-year sentence remains unchanged. Novus, now 20, began working at HMP Five Wells in Wellingborough, a town about 115 kilometers north of London, in July 2024 when she was just 18. Winkless had arrived at the prison the previous month. By November of that year, Novus and Winkless were in direct electronic communication after she provided him with her personal phone number before the relationship became sexual. The pair also used additional numbers to stay in contact and exchange messages, calls, and video calls. Prosecutor Matthew Rowcliffe said there were 2,873 contacts between the pair during the indictment period, which took place between August 1, 2024 and March 21, 2025, the BBC reported at the time. Novus was arrested on December 23, 2024, and released on bail while further investigations took place, with conditions not to contact Winkless. She quit her jobs 3 days after her release and immediately resumed contact with the prisoner, making about 400 further phone calls. Novus admitted to bringing cannabis and 2 mobile phones into the prison and having unauthorized communication with the prison, which included passing on the name of a prisoner informant. Serious breach. Authorities branded Novus's actions as a serious breach of her responsibilities. Quote, "These sentences reflect the gravity of the multitude of offenses committed," Detective Inspector Richard Cornell from the East Midlands Regional Prisons Intelligence Unit said, per the outlet. Unfortunately, Novus used her position to form an inappropriate relationship with Winkless and to breach public trust and confidence further by illegally passing on information and smuggling drugs and mobile phones to him, Cornell continued. Winkless undoubtedly encouraged this relationship and the unprofessional and illegal conduct carried out by Novus, and this is reflected in the charges he also faced and the sentence he has now received. There is a booking picture of Alicia Novus. She is very young looking. She has blue eyes, light brown hair, and she's got it pulled back. She's wearing reading glasses, and she's very pretty. She has some pimples. She's young, and she's just wearing a white-colored shirt. And then there's also a booking picture of Declan Winkless. He has brown hair, brown eyes. He's got tattoos above both eyebrows. They look like a signature of some kind. And then it looks like a lightning bolt on one cheek, and I don't know what the other thing is on his other cheek. And he's got a beard and mustache. Oh, and his whole neck is also tattooed. Photo courtesy of North Hampshire Police. That story was inmate who leaked filmed sex romps with teen prison guard has sentence upped by Danette Wilford. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Toronto Sun on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The next story is Belgium mocks Donald Trump's dance, trolls U.S. team after FIFA World Cup loss by Dan Balicki. The U.S. team at the FIFA World Cup suffered an embarrassing loss to Belgium in the round of 16 on Monday night. And it seems nobody's going to let them forget about that. Team USA, which had entered the game under a firestorm of controversy, was easily dismantled by the Belgians during knockout stage match in Seattle by a score of 4-1. Heading into the match, U.S. President Donald Trump had successfully and controversially lobbied FIFA to overturn a red card given to star striker Folarin Balogun in the previous game, which would have forced him to miss Monday's match due to suspension. Trump said on Monday that he put in a call to FIFA President Gianni Infantino, with the organization later announcing that Balogun's ban would be suspended and that he was eligible to play. While the Royal Belgian Football Association protested the decision, it ultimately didn't matter on the pitch, as the Red Devils ran rampant on the favored Americans. What was Belgium's message to the U.S. team? After the match, the Belgian team's official X account shared a savage response to the pre-match posturing by the U.S. team and Trump. Overturn this! The Red Devils' official X account posted alongside a photo of star Romelu Lukaku celebrating the game's final goal. That wasn't all either. Lukaku and his teammates appeared to take a direct shot at the U.S. president following his goal during second-half injury time. While celebrating near a corner flag, a large group of Belgian players mocked Trump by doing his signature dance move. It didn't end there. After the match during Belgium's post-match celebrations, in a locker room at the Seattle Stadium, the team once again busted out Trump's dance while one of the U.S. president's favorite songs, YMCA by the Village People, played on a speaker. After the match, the knives were out for the U.S. team, from all sides. What did Dave Portnoy say? In Canada, TSN's post-game panel ripped the team's effort and called the squad overhyped. This team is so overhyped, Kevin Kilbane said during post-match coverage. They have been demolished today. They were schooled. They were embarrassed on and off the pitch because Belgium showed how flawed they really are. It's hard to explain how bad they are at this level, Stephen Caldwell added. One of the most embarrassing moments of the match was when American goalkeeper Matt Freese badly misplayed a ball, leading to Belgium scoring an easy third goal. In the U.S., Barstool founder Dave Portnoy, one of the team's biggest supporters, absolutely slammed its effort during the game. Embarrassing effort from the United States. Lights were way too bright for U.S. soccer team. Stage way too big, Portnoy wrote on X. We are a fucking joke. That game was a fucking joke. If you're gonna have us root for our team, how about having a goalie who fucking doesn't give up a goal, just kicking the ground and giving it to the other team? He added about Freese's giveaway. There is a picture of Romelu Lukaku of Belgium as he's surrounded by his teammates, and they're all dancing after scoring his team's fourth goal during the FIFA World Cup. And people, these guys have their arms around him. They look like they're choking him, but he's all right with it. And everyone's just smiling super big, and some are doing fist bumps, everyone's happy. And you can see the crowd in the background. Photo courtesy of Getty Images. That story was Belgium Mocks Donald Trump's Dance and Trolls U.S. Team After FIFA World Cup Loss by Dan Balicki. The next story is Does Pierre Poilievre Actually Want to Be a Prime Minister? By Brian Lilly. I want Pierre Poilievre to be Canada's next Prime Minister, but I'm beginning to question whether he wants the job. Poilievre continues to go out of his way to alienate different factions of the conservative movement and pick unnecessary fights with people who should be his allies. On Saturday, at his Stampede Barbecue in Calgary, Poilievre used his introduction of newly elected BC Conservative Party leader Carrie Lynn Findlay to take a shot at Ontario Premier Doug Ford and his team. Quote, "The future Premier of British Columbia, Carrie Lynn Findlay, way to go, fresh off a big win against Liberal lobbyists from out east," Poilievre said. That was a direct shot at Corey Taniaki, the man who has run Doug Ford's last 3 election victories in Ontario and who managed Caroline Elliott's campaign in the BC Conservative leadership race. Elliott finished second to Findlay. Poilievre was also attacking some of his former employees. It was also a drive-by smear of the many people who had previously worked to elect Poilievre as Conservative leader and as Prime Minister, who would go on to work on Elliott's campaign. Smearing those stalwarts of his previous team, like Anthony Koch or Ben Woodfinden, was a small price for Poilievre to pay to get in a dig at Taniaki and Ford. Taniaki, whatever some may think of him, is a conservative. He helped as Stephen Harper's Director of Communications, helped run Harper's 2015 election campaign, managed Maxime Bernier's conservative leadership bid in 2017, and has been active in conservative politics since the late 1990s. He is also an old friend of Poilievre and his former campaign manager, Jenny Byrne, although that relationship is likely strained at this point. In fact, I know it's strained. Shortly after Elliott lost the BC Conservative leadership race, Conservative MPs spent a good amount of time at one of their weekly caucus meetings discussing how happy they were that Corey lost. It wasn't about Elliott. It wasn't about Findlay. It was that Corey lost, and Poilievre took part in all of this. Caucus time is precious, and anyone who has been in these meetings will tell you it is rarely wasted in this fashion. Needless attacks don't win elections. Poilievre's decision to use his Stampede Barbecue speech to pick a fight with Ford and his team by branding them liberals is beyond stupid. It damages his efforts to unseat Mark Carney. Instead of mending fences, as Poilievre's current chief of staff and campaign manager, Steve Outhouse, promised earlier this year, Poilievre is making matters worse. In the election where Poilievre lost to Carney's Liberals and lost his own seat, he either froze out or alienated Doug Ford, Jean Charest, Patrick Brown, Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston, Peter MacKay, and others. People who could have helped him secure victory in 2025 were effectively told their help wasn't needed. The campaign was all about Pierre. That worked when he was about 20 points ahead in the polls. It didn't work once the Liberals changed leaders and Carney started winning over former Conservative voters. Rift between Ford and Poilievre didn't start in the last election. It may feel good for Poilievre to take shots at Ford and his team. It may energize the base and excite the online influencers who have surrounded him. It does nothing, however, to help him win the next election. Poilievre's supporters love to claim Ford isn't a conservative, that he's really a liberal. They call him all kinds of names, something they have in common with some of Poilievre's senior advisors, who have spent years coming to Toronto and publicly mocking Ford as, quote, Comrade Doug. The rift between Ford and Poilievre goes back much further than anything Taniaki said during the last election. Ford called Poilievre after he won the Conservative leadership. Poilievre never called back. He would come to Toronto without calling or meeting Ford, while his lieutenants openly attacked the Premier whenever they were in town. Unsurprisingly, word got back to Ford and his team. Had Poilievre reached out at any point, Ontario's Premier, a politician who has won 3 majority governments, would have helped him. So what if Doug Ford isn't the same kind of conservative they have in Alberta? Conservatives in Quebec are different, and Poilievre doesn't pick fights with them. Conservatives in Atlantic Canada are further to the red side than Ford, yet Poilievre and his team don't claim they aren't real conservatives. But they do that with Ford, even though it hurts their chances at the ballot box. With his comments on the weekend, Poilievre has also angered and alienated some of his most loyal supporters who worked directly for him. Why? All to score a cheap political dig at a guy Poilievre should be asking for help. Poilievre needs to decide whether he wants to be smug and right in his own mind, or whether he wants to win elections. Right now, it's not clear that he wants to win elections. There is a picture of Pierre Poilievre as he's speaking during a news conference at the National Press Theatre in Ottawa. It was taken June 25th of this year. And he's at a podium. There's a glass of water. There's a little microphone that is sticking up. And he's in a dark blue suit and tie. He's got brown hair with a little gray on the temples. And both of his hands are up while he's speaking. Photo courtesy of Dave Chan via AFP via Getty Images. That story was Does Pierre Poilievre Actually Want to Be Prime Minister? By Brian Lilly. The next story is Sharon Osbourne marks first wedding anniversary since Ozzy's death by Mark Danielle. Sharon Osbourne marked what would have been her 46th wedding anniversary to her late husband, Ozzy Osbourne, in a heartfelt social media post. Sharing a photo of the pair clasping hands to Instagram, Sharon called the day they said "I do" 46 years ago a celebration of a love. Today would have been our 46th wedding anniversary. Instead, it is a celebration of a love that even death could not diminish, she wrote. I miss your hand in mine, but I carry your love with me every step of the way. Forever my husband, forever my heart. In the comments, thousands of followers praised the duo's long-standing partnership. Quote, sending you so much love. I have this digital photo frame that chooses photos and videos randomly from my feed, and it often chooses photos from Ozzy's birthday. And I have this one photo of you two holding hands, and it always reminds me of the most beautiful love. An eternally beautiful love. Dancing with the Stars judge Carrie Ann Inaba wrote, quote, Happy anniversary! No matter where you are or what you are doing, his spirit will always be with you, another fan added. The two met in the early 1970s when Ozzy was a member of Black Sabbath. Sharon helped manage his career when he went solo. The pair married in 1982 and share 3 children together, Amy, Kelly, and Jack. Ozzy's death came 2 weeks after his final live performance. The rock legend shocked the music world when he died of a heart attack on July 22nd, 2 weeks after he took the stage for a farewell concert with his Black Sabbath bandmates at Birmingham's Villa Park Soccer Stadium. Quote, It is with more sadness than mere words can convey that we have to report that our beloved Ozzy has passed away this morning, his family said at the time. He was with his family and surrounded by love. According to his death certificate obtained by the New York Times and the UK Sun, Ozzy's cause of death was listed as resulting from cardiac arrest and coronary artery disease. He was also suffering from Parkinson's disease. Sharon thanked Ozzy's legion of fans in an Instagram post in which she candidly spoke about having to navigate her loss of her husband. Quote, "Your comments, posts, and tributes have brought me more comfort than you know. None of it has gone unnoticed. In fact, it's carried me through many nights," she wrote on September 12th. Sharon broke her silence on her husband's final night during an appearance on Piers Morgan's Uncensored last December. Quote, "It was like 4:30 and he said, 'Wake up.' I said, 'I'm already bloody awake. You've woken me up,'" Sharon says. "And he said, 'Kiss me.' And then he said, 'Hug me tight.' I can't help wondering if I could I have? If I'd only have told him I loved him more. If only I'd have held him tighter." Sharon said that Ozzy went downstairs to do his daily workout when she heard yelling. Quote, "He had a heart attack. I ran downstairs and there he was, and they were trying to resuscitate him. And I'm like, 'Don't, just leave him. Leave him. You can't. He's gone,' she said. I knew instantly he'd gone. And they tried, and then they took him by helicopter to the hospital. And then they tried, and it's like, he's gone. Just leave him." Doctors warned Ozzy not to perform gig. Sharon said that Ozzy's doctors cautioned him that he might not survive if he went ahead with his farewell performance. Quote, "He'd been so ill this year. Terribly, terribly ill. And when we came to England and we were meeting with the new doctors here, a new medical team for him, the main doctor said to him, 'If you do this show, that's it. You're not going to get through it,' she said. We just sat there and he said, 'I'm doing it. I want to do it, and I'm doing it.'" But Sharon said that in the last weeks of Ozzy's life, he had been having visions and seeing people that he never knew. I said, "Well, what kind of people?" He goes, "All different people. And I just keep walking and walking, and I'm seeing all these different people every night. And I go back there and I'm looking at these people, and they're looking at me, and nobody's talking." And he knew. He was ready, she said. There is a picture of Ozzy Osbourne from that last show. He is seated at a big black gothic-looking chair that has a bat on top, and it's tufted black leather. He's wearing a purple and black velvet-looking jacket that is super cool. He's got tons of black, sooty eye makeup on and long brown hair. His hands are in the air, and he's smiling, looking out into the crowd. It's a beautiful picture. And that is shared by Ozzy Osbourne's X account. That story was Sharon Osbourne Mark's first wedding anniversary since Ozzy's death, by Mark Danielle. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Toronto Sun on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The next story is Kyle Lowry to have jersey retired and ends NBA career as a Raptor, by Ryan Wolstadt. It's official. Kyle Lowry's number 7 is going up to the Raptors at Scotiabank Arena. Lowry, the Toronto Raptors legend, announced his retirement from the NBA on Tuesday morning, signing a one-day contract with the Raptors, as he had long said he would. Raptors general manager Bobby Webster also began a media conference by announcing that Lowry's jersey would be retired. Quote, "A momentous and celebratory day for us," was how Webster put it. "I think watching him play basketball stirred everybody's heart. And I think he played a brand of basketball that very few in the NBA have matched," Webster said. "Every possession for him was life and death. Every opposing player's drive was a new chance to take a charge. I think every post-up attempt on him was destined to be a miss. So, in many ways, I think of the franchise before Kyle and sort of after Kyle's arrival. Before Kyle, the franchise had 0 50-win seasons. After Kyle's arrival, or with Kyle, we had 5 straight 50-win seasons. Before Kyle, we had won one playoff series in the history of the team. With Kyle, we won 9 playoff series, culminating obviously with the 2019 NBA championship. Lowry's friend, Vince Carter, is the only Raptor to have his number retired. And in fact, Carter cut off Lowry's answer to a question from this scribe by FaceTiming his congratulations. To Lowry's credit, ever the professional, he later circled back and answered the question about what the inspiring 2014 run to the playoffs and epic first-round series against the Brooklyn Nets meant to him. Lowry, the franchise leader in assists, steals, three-pointers, triple-doubles, win shares, and value over replacement player, was his usual self at the podium. He cracked jokes at Raptors staffers, familiar media members, and even at himself, such as insisting he truly stands 6 feet tall. What did Lowry say? But through it all, Lowry expressed gratitude and even some wonder at how far he'd come and how connected he feels to Toronto and to Raptors fans, who, as he noted, come from all across the country. This is a wonderful moment. I never thought that I would be in this situation in my life, Lowry began. Yeah, this is a special moment for me. Words can't really describe it, you know? I always said that I would retire a Toronto Raptor, and that was everything. This place is, I call it home. I mean it, through and through. Everything about the city of Toronto, the country of Canada. It's done special wonders for me, and I appreciate it. Lowry was always the beating heart of the franchise, its relentless, game-changing bulldog. Lowry never put up the flashiest numbers, he just got the job done. With grit, passion, and perseverance. Things didn't always go right, there were tough moments, but they led to the more glorious ones. And Raptors fans loved Lowry for it all. I think the city and the country, they go on guys that play hard. It was a hockey town. It's a hockey place, you know? Hard work, play through anything, and I think that was a connection, Lowry said. I played through anything. Hard work. I worked hard. I played hard. I did anything it took to win basketball games. I think it's just one of those places that, just shows its grit, right? It's not the warmest place, but you guys still get up and go to work every single day. These people go to work every day in the cold weather, and it's just about the determination of getting a job done. After the event, the Raptors announced several plans to further honor Lowry ahead and during the coming season. There will be the KLOW Invitational, a charity golf tournament on September 18 featuring Lowry and former teammates. Kyle's block party the next day in downtown Toronto. The aim there is to celebrate with fans. A night for 7, a day later, will be a gala in honor of the GROAT, which is the greatest Raptor of all time, and the impact he continues to have on Toronto and beyond. Finally, Lowry's jersey will be retired on a date still to be determined. Most likely when Toronto plays DeMar DeRozan's next team. Quote, to be one of only 2 players in NBA history that would play 20 years 6 foot and under is pretty incredible, Lowry said. And I still have time to reflect it and look back on things, and it's going to take a long time. And I'm sure social media is going to put up stats and stuff like that, but I think I had a hell of a career. You sure did, Kyle. There is a picture of Kyle Lowry where he is signing that one-day contract. And so he is standing next to this extra large contract that's on an easel. And somewhere it says Raptors, I'm sure. And there's like a red basketball kind of a graphic. And you could see he took a Sharpie and signed his name. It's dated July 7th, 2026. And he's standing next to it in black pants, a white t-shirt, and like a very light black jacket. He's got his hands up in the air, kind of smiling, like, I did it. Photo courtesy of Ernest Dorazuk via the Toronto Sun. That story was Kyle Lowry to have jersey retired and ends NBA career as a Raptor by Ryan Wolstadt. The next story is Expert Warns Kearney's billion-dollar sub-plan leaves giant capability gap by Brian Pacifiume. Ottawa. Despite many observers praising Ottawa's move to replace its outdated and decrepit submarine fleet, defense experts warn Ottawa's sluggish procurement framework leaves Canada facing a dangerous capability gap. On Monday, Prime Minister Mark Carney named Germany's ThyssenKrupp Marine Systems, or TKMS, as the preferred provider for Canada to purchase up to 12 new diesel-electric Type 212CD submarines, with the first 4 boats expected to be delivered by 2034, with Carney adding that the Royal Canadian Navy will continue using its obsolete, half-century-old Victoria-class submarines into the next decade. That, says MacDonald, Laurier Institute Senior Fellow and former Defense Minister Policy Director Joe Varner, represents a risky gamble for Canada, considering that only one of Canada's 4 remaining submarines are considered seaworthy. I don't think there's any doubt that you're going to see a capability gap between the Victoria-class and the follow-on submarines, Varner told the Toronto Sun. This country has an awful tendency to foot drag, be slow, and really put itself in a space where it faces a rust out and then has to try and rebuild capability. Canada behind the game on world threat environment. While Varner said a new fleet of subs are invaluable in protecting Canada's Arctic approaches, the anticipated 2034 delivery date doesn't offer much help to Canada in the meantime. The perception of threats in this country is really concerning, he said. All of our NATO allies are talking about the Russians being in a position to fight another major conventional war by 2029. That's 3 years away. In the Pacific, the Chinese are right now rehearsing naval blockade drills around Taiwan, and they're mapping underwater for submarine operations. That, coupled with China's recent unannounced test of submarine-based ballistic missiles and renewed tensions in the Persian Gulf, means there's no shortage of threats facing Canada that the government doesn't appear too concerned with. There is always the debate over nuclear versus conventional when it comes to operating in and around the Arctic, Varner said, adding that while nuclear boats are capable for operating under Arctic ice for an indefinite period of time, operations under the ice cap tend to be noisy and brings with it its own challenges. The advantage of these submarines is their stealth and ability to sneak up on an opponent's submarine, he continued. If you're a Chinese or Russian military planner, planning to operate submarines in the Arctic, I think that you're going to be very concerned if Canada has 12 Type 212CD submarines sitting there waiting for you. There is a picture of Victoria-class submarine at CFB Halifax taken on July 6 of 2015, and you really only see a part of the top of it. So it's black and it's kind of a long oval that's above water, and then there's like I don't even know how to describe this. It's kind of a lookout with all kinds of poles and things on top of it that is kind of near the front. And then there's railings, I guess, for people to walk around. Photo courtesy of Post Media. That story was Expert Warns Kearney's billion-dollar sub-plan leaves giant capability gap by Brian Pacifiume. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Toronto Sun on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The next story is Senators legend Daniel Alfredson joins Maple Leafs coaching staff by Lance Hornby. The very notion of any high-profile figure changing sides in the Battle of Ontario is incredulous, let alone a perceived villain such as Daniel Alfredson. But the player who got booed every time he touched the puck in Toronto after on-ice incidents with Darcy Tucker and Matt Sundin is joining Toronto as associate coach. Sundin, now the Leafs senior executive assistant, very likely helped engineer his Swedish countryman's exit after Alfredson's 30-plus year relationship with the Ottawa Senators, dating back to the 1994 draft. It was part of a major reshaping of assistants under new head coach Jim Hiller on Tuesday. While Alfredson leaves his post as assistant in Ottawa after 3 seasons, John Gruden and Brad Wawrinka have been named assistants with the Leafs. Mike Van Ryn and Derek Lalonde will not be returning as assistant coaches next season. I'm incredibly excited to add Daniel, John, and Brad to our coaching staff, Hiller said in a release. Daniel's experience, leadership, and understanding of the game speak for themselves. John has established himself as one of the top coaches in the American Hockey League and played an instrumental role in leading the Marlies to a Calder Cup championship last season. Brad brings a unique combination of NHL experience, player development, and expertise in performance analytics. Together, they'll be outstanding additions to our team. What is Alfie's relationship to the Leafs? Alfredson, 53, has been a longtime friend of Sundin, both Olympic champions in 2006, despite their on-ice run-ins during 4 bitter playoff series between the Leafs and the Sens. Sundin was the first European to captain the Leafs, just ahead of Alfredson's appointment in Ottawa. By the time Sundin left Toronto, Vancouver's Marcus Naslund had made it 3 Swedish captains on Canadian teams, and 16 have since served or are still on the job. Quote, "One of the reasons we're likable as captains is that the Swedish system puts the team first," Alfredson said of he and Sundin wearing the coveted letter. But Alfredson made himself a major pain in the rumpa for the Leafs. The pesky Sens soon emerged from expansion doormats to a continual regular season threat to the Leafs in their division. Alfredson and others took great delight in beating them when a convoy of Leafs fans had driven to the Capitol and occupied most seats. That often boiled over in playoffs, all 4 series in Alfredson's era won by Toronto. In 2002 playoffs, Alfredson put a shoulder into Leafs winger Tucker from behind, knocking him into the Air Canada center boards and prone on the ice, while Juha Jalonen grabbed the puck and centered to an uncovered Alfie for a goal. Tucker's shoulder was separated, but no penalty was called. That enabled Ottawa's 4-2 win and 3-2 series lead, Toronto rebounding to take that set in 7. As a guest columnist for the Toronto Sun in 2014, Tucker said he eventually recognized he and Alfredson would do anything in their power to help their teams win. "You have to respect the competitiveness with which the guy played," Tucker said. "I didn't have the best reputation with the referees. And basically, that's what it came down to. He made a hockey play. He finished his check, unfortunately. I was injured on the play, and they scored the winning goal." 2 years later, in a game Sundin missed, suspended for throwing the shaft of his broken stick into the crowd at the Air Canada Centre when it snapped on a one-timer, Alfredson's twig also shattered and he fake threw it, to further enrage the Toronto bench and fans. When the NHL introduced the shootout in 2005, Alfredson beat Ed Balfour in the first ever tiebreaker on opening night. Prior to coaching, Gothenburg native Alfredson appeared in 1,246 regular season games with Ottawa and Detroit, with 1,157 points, 443 goals, and 713 assists. A six-time NHL All-Star, Alfredsson received the Calder Trophy in 1996 with 61 points, won the King Clancy Memorial Trophy in 2012 for leadership and humanitarian contributions, and the Mark Messier Leadership Award in 2013. He was an NHL second All-Star team member in 05 and 06, and, like Sundin, is inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. After some estrangement, he was brought back to the Senators by owner Michael Andlauer when his group closed on the purchase of the club in 2023. Steve Staios, the club's president of hockey operations and general manager, gave Alfredsson a player development role to start and head coach DJ Smith was fired that same season, and Alfredsson moved behind the bench with interim head coach Jacques Martin. Andlauer released a statement on Tuesday that left the door open for Alfredsson to return to the organization anytime he wants. Quote, "While I wish he wasn't joining an arch rival, Alfie is forever a Senator, and the doors will always be open for his return. He has done so much for our organization and community. He has my full respect." Gruden, 56, joins the Leafs after spending the past 3 seasons with the Marlies. Prior to that, he served as an assistant with the Boston Bruins during the 2022 through 23 season, after 4 seasons with the New York Islanders, including time with Hiller under Barry Trotz. Before returning to the professional ranks, Gruden guided the Hamilton Bulldogs to the 2018 OHL title. Wawrinka, 57, joins the Leafs, having most recently served as an assistant coach for the University of Calgary Dino's men's hockey program from 2022 through 25. During his time there, he helped them to a Canada West men's hockey championship in 2023. In addition to coaching at the USports level, USPORTS level, Wawrinka is a co-founder of True Performance, which specializes in sports performance data. As a player, the Two Hills, Atlanta native played 320 NHL games between Edmonton, Quebec, Chicago, Pittsburgh, and Calgary, recording 80 points. There's a picture of former Ottawa Senator captain and assistant coach Daniel Alfredsson. It was taken during a practice session in 2024, and he's out on the ice. It's kind of a close-up picture. He's wearing a black, windbreaker jacket. He's got these really puffy, big, kind of mitt-shaped gloves on that are black, and it has a red part on the bottom that says something, but I can't read it. And he's holding this a red kind of cigar thing up to his face. I don't know what that is. Maybe it has something to do with hockey. Anyway, he's got a black ball cap on that's black and white in the back. He's got really pale skin. He's got a short beard and mustache that's blonde, and you could just see one big blue eye. Photo courtesy of Tony Caldwell via Post Media Network. That story was Senators legend Daniel Alfredsson joins Maple Leafs coaching staff by Lance Hornby. The next story is Prince Harry loses landmark privacy case against Daily Mail publisher. All in caps, magnificent vindication by Danette Wilford. Prince Harry did not kick off his trip to the UK with a bang. The Duke of Sussex, along with other high-profile claimants including Elizabeth Hurley and Elton John, had accused Associated Networks Limited, ANL, the publisher of the Daily Mail and Mail on Sunday, of unlawful information gathering. Why were the claims dismissed? High Court Judge Mr. Justice Nicklin dismissed all the claims, including, quote, abhorrent criminal activity and gross breaches of privacy, saying that the parties failed to prove their allegations, according to the BBC. Quote, the court rejected the attempt to prove the claims by broad inference, where there remained a legitimate and realistic possible lawful source pathway, or where the article-specific evidence did not prove that the relevant information must have been obtained unlawfully. A summary of the judgment read, per the outlet. The claimants accused the publisher of grave breaches of privacy, alleging A&L commissioned individuals to listen to private telephone calls, paid police officials with corrupt links to private investigators for inside information, and impersonated individuals to obtain medical records. The company has long denied the allegations, describing them as preposterous smears and saying the claimants are clutching at straws. Prince Harry arrived in the UK on Monday, partly to learn the verdict, which coincided with events centering on his beloved Invictus Games. Earlier this year, the royal testified at trial, describing how ANI's tabloid papers made wife Meghan, Duchess of Sussex's life a misery. Magnificent vindication. ANI issued a statement following the ruling, per the BBC, noting that it welcomes today's judgment, which is an overwhelming victory for the Daily Mail and its journalists, and for a free press generally. It continued, Mr. Justice Nicklin today cleared the Daily Mail and the Mail on Sunday, and dismissed every single one of the 97 allegations made by the claimants. In every case, the judge accepted the honesty of our journalists' evidence on how they sourced their stories. This is a magnificent vindication of the Daily Mail's journalism. The company noted that of all the outrageous allegations, no credible evidence was ever presented. It added, as we said at the time, these allegations were lurid and preposterous, and were a fishing expedition by the claimants and their legal teams in a politically motivated campaign to muzzle the free press. That's all the time we have for this story, which was Prince Harry loses landmark privacy case against Daily Mail publisher. Magnificent Vindication by Danette Wilford. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the July 7th issue of the Toronto Sun. Your reader has been Melanie Guralnick. Thank you for listening.